Nikki, welcome to the show. You're going to school me a little bit today, so I'm excited about this. First of all, how did you become a fan of Dave Matthews?
I didn't want to become a fan of Dave Matthews. I was making a point of not. When Under the Table came out in '94, all my friends loved them. And I just didn't get it. They're a very different band in the studio versus live. And my roommate in college in '96 loved them, loved their shows, and convinced me to go to one with her. And about 2 minutes in, I had just never seen anything like it before. I was immediately sold and had to eat my words. So
they're so crazy popular. How would you put into words in a couple sentences what makes them so popular, and why should I become a fan?
Well, I think it's different things for different people. It begins with the music. And aside from being great musicians, especially when you see them live, there's just so much energy, both on the stage and in the crowd. It's a very spontaneous atmosphere and nothing can happen. So I think that a lot of people get looped in kind of beginning with the music, but it's just really fun and there's not anything else out there quite like it.
When you were doing the research, did you find it was kind of a 50-50 split of what brought people to the band, whether it was the music or the atmosphere, as you were saying?
Yeah, I think it was 50-50. And I think that for a lot of people, it becomes about both. One thing may bring them in primarily, and then the other thing kind of keeps them there. So it's interesting. There's a lot going on there.
Actually, you also say that being a DMB fan is an active pursuit.
Well, I feel like a lot of the active pursuit of DMB has to do with how they started, which was, they were this strange, tiny little band in Virginia, and early on, the crowd really took ownership of them by, recording the music and then trading tapes. So, and they wanted to see the band succeed. And I feel like it kind of went from there because the community sort of came into being by spreading the music. It was active from the beginning, and that sentiment just kind of carried through.
Would you say Dave Matthews is possibly the most successful guy to have ever lived in his mom's basement?
I think probably, yeah. I believe, and don't quote me on this, though, I think Carter was down there at one point too, so, maybe
she has a nice mom. Let them both hang out.
Yeah, seriously.
That's very cool. I'm glad you brought up the early days because I do want to talk more about how they came together and, who came first and who came next and that kind of thing. So just give us a little history, if you would.
Sure. Okay. I have to say this was one of the coolest things for me as a fan, hearing the people that were there talk about the band coming together because I didn't get to see it. So the primary musicians were actually Leroy Moore, who was a saxophonist, and Carter Beauford, who's the drummer. They were big musicians around Charlottesville at the time. They were already established, playing in lots of different bands, very much known commodities. And Dave, pretty famously at this point, was a bartender at Miller's. And, wasn't really big on the scene. My understanding is that he had started to dabble, just playing solo shows, open mic nights, things like that, and got to know Carter and Leroy through them coming into Miller's and chatting with them. So when he wrote his first 4 songs and wanted to record them, he asked Leroy and Carter. And it started that way. My understanding is that they never actually meant to form a band. They were just going to record those 4 tracks, and there was a chemistry, and it went from there.
There was actually an interesting thing you brought up in the book about the actual start date of Dave Matthews.
Yeah, so Dave Matthews band fans are very much historians. They've been keeping track of this band from day one. And everyone had believed for almost 20 years that the first show was an Earth Day show in Charlottesville. And, that's what had gone down in record. Through the beauty of Twitter, which has changed everything, Stefan Lassard, who's their bassist, is really active there and talks with the fans. And he started saying he didn't really think that was their first show. He remembered being somewhere different before then. And he actually dug up a tape of a show that had occurred a month before that in March of '91. So
now they're on their way to international success. And there's a wonderful story in the book you talk about their Italian fans. So if you want to share that with us.
First of all, you have to give the Italian fans credit because they went, I believe, at least a decade without a show. the band went through in the mid 90s and then didn't come back again until just a couple years ago. So the community there is smaller, but they're very intense and dedicated. And Dave Matthews Band cover bands are a bigger thing there because they don't have the band coming through all the time. So they have these cover bands, and everyone kind of gets together for those things. But I went over there and the band did a 3-show run in Italy in 2010. And it was really interesting because they watched the shows very differently. In America, it's, a big party, it's a sing-along, everyone's dancing. And in Italy, it's very quiet for the most part, I found. And it's not a lack of intensity, it's that they're really sitting there absorbing the music because it's more of a treat for them, it's more of a rarity, so.
I'm just curious, do you remember any of those Italian cover band names? Because they're usually pretty clever.
Oh, God, I really should. I actually saw one of them play, and I'm embarrassed to say that I don't remember the name off the top of my head. They're good, though. I was with a friend there, and we saw they had like a party the night before the first show in Italy. The cover band played, and my friend was like, "This is actually really hard to listen to because it's like being at a show, so it makes you really want to be there." I mean, they're good.
They look like the band too?
They don't look so much like the band, no, but you can tell. They may not see a lot of live shows, but they've listened to them because they know their stuff.
So they've had all this great success, and then there was this weird incident in 2000 with the album leak.
So, this is so interesting to look back on in retrospect because it shows you how much things have changed. So what have come to be known as the Lily White Sessions were songs that the band recorded with Steve Lillywhite, who had produced their albums previous to that, and they'd planned on releasing them. The sessions just got a little bit off track. I was able to speak with Stefan about it, and it sounds like it was just sort of kind of like they were wading through the muck on it, and the usual energy wasn't there. So they basically decided to switch gears a little bit and ended up recording another album. This was their first major label album without Steve Lillywhite, called Every Day, which they released, and it went on to be their biggest commercial success. Right after this album released, though, the Everyday album, the Lillywhite Sessions leaked through Napster, and it was this massive thing. I think someone's quoted in the book as saying, for the number of downloads, the number of times the Lillywhite Session was downloaded, it would have gone on to be, at least a gold album, maybe a platinum one. Everyone had this album, but it was unfinished. I think that it was a really strange time. They were promoting Every Day, but the Lillywhite Sessions were so out there, and the majority of the fans really, liked the Lillywhite Sessions a lot more than Every Day. So the tour following that kind of became a fusion of those two albums. It was a really interesting time, and I think that you saw how powerful the fan base really was at that point. So.
And a turning point for the band, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. It was a weird period. It was a great album. The band, said there was never. I don't think these were ever songs that the band didn't like. It was a recording session that just, wasn't quite working out. And, I think for them it was hard to have their hand forced like that because they weren't finished yet. So, but they were still out there. And there's no taking anything back once it's out there.
A definite turning point for the band, and an unfortunate tragedy was the passing of Leroy in 2008.
Yeah.
You have some nice quotes in the book, and one of them that struck me was that he was music.
That night at Staples, all these shows are recorded, and I wasn't there at Staples that night, but the band opens with Bartender, and I think I listened to it a few times right after the show, and I can't listen to it anymore. It's just so emotional. And, the fact that the band went out to play just a few hours after Leroy died, the energy, just listening to those show tapes, I can't imagine actually being there, even after hearing so many people talk about them.
And yet they've gone on, and this is their 20-year anniversary. What do you think? What do you expect for them the next 20 years?
I don't know. This band, it's hard to say because I feel like there's always been this kind of essence at their core that's carried through from when they were just a very small band to, the early 2000s when it was really peaking. But they are always evolving. I mean, if you listen to them now, there's a much more kind of rocked out, aggressive sound than there was in the earlier days. So I think it's hard to know what to expect from them. I think that for me, their live shows just continue to get better. I've seen them so many times and I'm still floored by them when I see them live. So I think they'll keep going for as long as they can, I hope, as a fan.
As a fan, I have 10 quick questions for you. So if you're ready, let's start with, you mentioned in the book a wish list of fans still haven't heard certain songs live yet. What's your wish list song that you haven't heard yet?
My wish list? I've heard most of them, but I'm going to answer that for the fan base. Monkey Man has never been played. And so that's the song that I think everyone would like to hear just because it hasn't been done yet. So it's a lucky crowd when that song comes out.
Venue?
My favorite venue is the Gorge. I love the Gorge.
Oh, stunning. I got to go there myself. Your favorite song?
I've had a lot of them over time. I have to go with You Never Know, though. I think it's been the most consistent over the years.
Favorite tailgate food before the show?
I'm usually doing more drinking than eating before the show.
Shout out to Sierra Nevada on that one.
Yeah, hey.
Okay. Your favorite Dave Matthews swag?
My favorite... Fenway, poster from the Fenway Park show in 2006.
Would that also be your favorite memorabilia that you personally own?
Yeah.
The favorite fan you met along the way?
That's a really hard question. Oh, I've got one. Okay. There was this kid, Ryan. He's one of the fans that's pulled out. There are 3 boxes there that concentrate on fans. Ryan is this great kid. When he was 18 years old, he decided he was going to make it his goal to play on stage with Dave Matthews Band. And he pulled it off within like 3 or 4 years. And I mean, it's a great story. And he's one of those kids I guess I should stop calling him a kid. He's, in his 20s now. But I mean, he's one of those kids who really like sets his mind on something crazy and then just goes out there and pulls it off. So.
And the story's in the book too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your favorite show ever?
My favorite show was Madison Square Garden, night 2 in December 2002. It was just one of those nights where the energy was explosive. Madison Square Garden was actually rocking, and James Brown all of a sudden came out on stage, and it was just, I have never had that feeling before of just so much excitement in one room. It kept going and going and going. It was great.
Now, if Dave Matthews isn't on tour, who's your Plan B band?
God, right now I'm really into Pete Kilpatrick Band, who I actually got turned on to through DMB. And they're from Maine, so they're in the New England area.
And your go-to Dave Matthews dance? Spin, twirl, or something else?
I really can't dance, so I just do a little white girl kind of move. It's pretty bad.
Nikki, thank you so much. Congratulations on the book. Here it is, you guys.
Thank you.
So much to say.